about to go and break off my engagement because my fiance cannot set a boundary with his girl best friend. I always have known he grew up with a girl best friend, but I had never met her. They're the type of friends who would like keep in contact on Facebook, like once a year. Recently, she moved back to our hometown where we both live. She's going through a nasty divorce, and we have done nothing but support her. I've been nothing but a girl's girl to her. Started basically texting my man at all hours of the night. He would show them to me. I feel like they were really like reaching for sympathy. Like, honey, it's been a few months now. Can we move forward? I'm skipping a few things, but the other night had date night, and we both work a lot, so our date nights are very special to us. Apparently more so me. We had gone to dinner and had a nice romantic evening, and for dessert we each took a spicy cube while we were still at the restaurant. So it was like a race to get home. It was getting hot and spicy in the car. Like, I was ready to She-Hulk my man when we got home. And when we pulled up to my house, she's in my driveway. What are you doing in my driveway at like 10 o'clock at night? Look over at my fiance and I'm like, you better fucking handle this. Like, I'm done. I'm at capacity. She's like hysterically crying, talking about a Hinge date that ghosted her or something. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And I went inside and he stayed out and talked to her for like an hour. So I'm done. I don't need to compete with anyone else. Yeah, let you know how it goes.
I ended my engagement. I have been debating sharing this with the internet. I always said that I was never going to be the kind of influencer that only shares the good parts of my life. I've been able to build a platform because I'm authentic. It's really important for me to own my narrative instead of letting people assume and start rumors. Ending my engagement was the hardest thing I think I've ever had to do in my entire life. It's really not the breakup itself that's hard, but it's also having to like break up with the idea of the future that you planned and grieving that too. And at this big age, 31 years old, it feels like your clock is ticking faster and faster. I think that if sharing my story helps just one person, then it's worth it. I was trying so hard to make it work. Eventually, trying to make it work felt exhausting. It literally took me accepting the hard truth that I tried to ignore. Now, the moment I accepted that and said it out loud, I felt so much relief and honestly freedom. Not because I didn't care. I was finally listening to myself. Now I have to start over, rebuild myself, move out. It's scary. There's a lot of uncertainty, but that's also kind of the beauty in all of this. I get to start over. I am doing my best and I'm figuring it out one day at a time. So that's my truth. Love you. Bye.
Hi, welcome. So, why is it that women break off their engagement? Why? That is the question that we're going to talk about today in this video. So, let's watch it. We are going to discuss it at the end. And please stay tuned and kindly subscribe to my channel.
I'm calling off me and my man's engagement when he gets home, all over his girl best friend that he decided to choose over me. Now, I want to start this off by saying I have never felt threatened by this girl, jealous of this girl, and I never felt that their relationship would affect our relationship up until recently. Now, they've been best friends since middle school, high school, whatever, I don't know. And recently she got broken up with, so she decided to move back here, which is her home, her hometown. So she moved back home. And at first, I'm super nice. I understand what it's like to go through a breakup. We've all been there before. That sucks. So, you know, let's have some girl time. And then we all hang out. You know, I invite her over for dinner. We all go out and get drinks, things like that. And everything's super cool for a little bit. And then it got a little weird. Homegirl would just like overstay her welcome. She never wanted to leave and go back home. She would literally like ask like, can I stay? Like, and so she would like stay downstairs on the couch sometimes because I guess she didn't want to go back home to her parents or wherever she was staying. I don't know. And then it was the constant texts and constant calls to my man every single day. And some of them were calls at like 2 a.m. Like, we're not doing that. Where my breaking point kind of was when we would be having intimate time and she would be blowing up his freaking phone. And she would call back to back to back, and his phone would be across the room. So we would have to literally stop for him to go, like, end that call, like, put his phone on silent. You're getting in between me and my man physically now. Now we have a problem. So I told him, I was like, dude, you need to go set some boundaries with her. Like, we're getting married in 2 months. This is getting weird. I'm getting uncomfortable. I've been as nice as I possibly can, but I'm kind of at a breaking point now. So the next day we had a date night scheduled. He told me that right before he left work, that he texted her and set some boundaries. I just trust my man, right? I'm like, I don't need to know what he said. I trust him, whatever, cool. So we go on our date night. Everything's great. We go to dinner. We're on the way home and we pop some spicy cubes. That's our normal nighttime date night thing. And when we pull up to the house, guess who's sitting there, literally on our front porch, waiting for us to get home? You guessed it. His bestie. And I'm losing my shit at this point. I'm sitting in this car like, oh, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be so good. Like, what could she possibly have to say? And she looked pissed. She looked mad. So I let my man, I was like, you know what? You go handle this. I'm gonna sit right here because I am trying to hold myself back. You go handle this before I do, essentially. So he gets out the car and I just watch them talk, and she looks like she's having an attitude with him, and then they just hug. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is wild. She drives away and we walk inside the house, and at that freaking point, I'm done. Like, I don't care. My buzz is gone. Yes, I was looking forward to get my back blown out that night. I just didn't care anymore. I'm so irritated. Like, what is going on? This girl is really becoming a problem. So I went upstairs and I told him, I said, listen, I don't need to know what that conversation was about. I don't care. Obviously, she's an emotional wreck, weird state right now. I don't care. But you're going to have to tell her that she's going to leave you alone. Like, you're blocking her. We will figure this out maybe after the wedding, but I'm not going to have this situation happen before. I don't need any negative energy, or I can tell something weird is going on. I just need you to block her. We're done. And he was like, okay. I literally watched this man block her number, right? So we're all good. So then a few days later, we are sitting on the couch watching TV, and I feel a buzz. Not my phone. Look at my man's phone, and I see her name pop up. I said, oh, okay. Yeah, this is done. And what's even more is I went through their text messages that night, and she was basically saying, it's really sad that you and your girlfriend, like the disrespect, have to take spicy cubes to spice up your relationship. You deserve better. Like, you can do way better than her. And then proceeds to tell him that she's been in love with him since like the 9th grade. Like, I don't care if I'm being a bitch. Call me a bitch. I'm done. I gave him the chance to end that relationship, and he didn't. So he literally chose her over me, and that is okay. That is okay. That is everything. I'm just glad we didn't get married first. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am glad that the universe was like, let's have this happen before the marriage, because I would have beat a bitch up. Like, what are we doing? This is insane. So he's going to be home in 20 minutes, and that is going to be a really rough news break for him. Unless, you know, they just end up getting together and they live together happily for the rest of their lives.
So I was engaged to another person before I met my husband, and I was around 28, and of course I thought I was going to turn into an ogre if I didn't get married before I was 30. And for some reason I just knew that this was not the person that I was supposed to be with. I knew that I was supposed to be with somebody else. And so I was on the phone with my mom one day. She was about to write me a check for $15,000 to put a deposit down on the venue, and I called her and I was like, look, I don't want to get married. Like, I don't want to get married. And looking back on it, I definitely didn't want to marry this person. I didn't feel motivated. I didn't feel supported. I felt like I would have to financially support us or do 50-50 for the rest of my life. And I didn't feel like I could go to this person and be like, hey, I want to try something new, or I don't want to pay bills right now, or give me $1,000. Like, I didn't feel like I could go to that person and say these things. And so I broke off the engagement. I was single for a little while, and then I met my husband. And now my husband, like, I can call him right now and be like, hey, like, I want to become a flight attendant. And he'd be like, yes, drop everything, let's do it. Or I want to be like a karate instructor, or I want to get my PhD. And my husband would be like, yes, I'm motivated, let's go to the gym, let's go running, let's do all this stuff. Like, my husband's very motivating for me. Like, he knows how to push me, he knows me. And I just didn't feel that with anybody else. And I'm so glad that I waited until I was 34 to actually get married, because it just felt right. Like, it felt like the right thing, and it still does. So never settle, because I'm telling you, right around the corner is the exact person that you're supposed to be with, the person that will motivate you for the rest of your life to be the best version of yourself. So good luck.
I was in a 10-year relationship. I was engaged for the last 2 years of it, and 2 weeks prior to the wedding, we broke everything off. It wasn't that I realized in those 2 weeks that we weren't compatible, including lifestyle plus other issues. It was that it was a long time coming, and it took me a really long time to choose myself until I chose myself. I kept thinking and convincing myself that things would get better, that as time went on, he would change. And that's the thing that I learned, that people don't change for other people, they change for themselves. And I was dating him and being with him for his potential and what he could be, instead of just seeing who he was and who he was showing me right then and there. To give you guys a little background, we were college sweethearts, so we were growing together. And then it wasn't until we graduated college that we started living together that I saw more of who he was, that we started growing apart. And that's when the issues started coming up. And what I can say is that when you don't have peace of mind, that's how you know that it's your time to leave. And I ignored my intuition for a really long time until I didn't.
Get ready with me to tell you how I broke up with my boyfriend of 3.5 years and was engaged. Ultimately, it was my decision, and I'm glad I went through with it, honestly. Was it one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make for myself? Most definitely. But like I said, I don't regret it, honestly, and I feel like it's for the best of us together. Obviously, there's a lot of logistics I want to share, and just in general, a lot of extra things, but I'm just going to go over the overview. And so overall, and honestly, this is still very hard to share, especially on the internet, but I'm going to, because I'm just like that. But ultimately, I needed more. I feel like I was asking for basically the bare minimum, and when I thought about it, okay, once he did that, maybe it's still the bare minimum. And I asked for a lot of different things for many, many years, forgave for many, many years, and at this point, I'm just kind of done. And so for me, I feel like once you keep asking for the same damn thing for years and years, once you finally kind of get it, and even if you don't, it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel genuine, because it's like, I just harassed you so long to be able to do this one action. So in addition to asking for basically the bare minimum, there's some other details within that I can share in another video. But also, I feel like it was like this mother-son relationship too, where I was like being the mother. And I feel like a lot of girls can relate to that, because I've talked to a lot of friends, things like that. And it's like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not going to be your mother. And once that dynamic hits, then it's like, it just doesn't feel right, I feel like. And I feel like I was just taking a lot of the mental load and just like stuff like that. And it just wasn't fun. Was not enjoyable or happy for me. But that doesn't mean there wasn't happy moments at all. Obviously there was happy moments, but in the end there was so many sad moments and stuff that I had to do alone, cry myself to sleep all the time, and it's just like at some point I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And so with every relationship, obviously like the intimacy started dying down, and it felt like we were roommates at some points, and I was just like, I don't want this for my life. Like, I can't stand at the altar and pretend that I'm okay and I want to marry someone like that. He's a great person, I give him that, but I just don't think we're meant to be together. Like, I want so many different things than he wants, things like that. And I feel like some people try to stay in relationships and make them work when you guys are just not meant to be together. And then some people are like, well, just forgive him. Can you forgive him one more time? And it's like, I literally don't have any more forgiveness left in me. Like, my cup is very dry. Like, I know no one's perfect, and I know everyone has their flaws, but like I said, I just feel like we weren't meant to be together. I shouldn't have to keep forgiving, and I should finally put myself first, and I think that's okay and a good thing. And so overall within that, I was starting to like lose myself. I wasn't really acting like I normally act, as happy as I usually am, and I knew that was the biggest sign. So honestly, it was like a huge mental battle of like, oh my gosh, I'm losing so much, but I'm also getting my happiness back. But I am very proud of myself, because like a lot of people stay in mediocre relationships, and I'm just not that girl. Couldn't be me. So more videos to come and new beginnings.
I ended a relationship and cut off an engagement from a great man. But why? He was a good man. He loved God.
That is good.
He loved and adored me. He was there for me.
C'est bien.
He was handsome. He was well educated.
Pinching.
Yes, he checked all the boxes. But there
There's a bot. Neighbors gather around. There's a bot.
But there was still something missing. And I just knew that I could not go through with this marriage. There was just something that did not connect. I felt that there was should have been a connection between he and I in order for me to be his wife.
Jesus Christ, what about lady? He is not Wi-Fi. You are not iPhone. Why are you looking for invincible connection when he already has all the good qualities that you want?
And so I cut off the engagement.
You fumbled the bag, lady. He's a good man, Savannah. Is it because he did not possess the demonic energy that you ladies seem to be attracted to these days? I don't understand this. I give up. I give up.
We need to normalize ending an engagement with a wonderful man. Stay with me on this one. All you see here on TikTok, all you see online is people talking about ending an engagement because somebody has lied, somebody's cheated on them, and it's okay to end a relationship with a truly wonderful person. So I was engaged years ago to a truly wonderful, wonderful man who I loved very much and who loved me. But we had problems. And I believed everything the society sold me that, oh God, love will conquer all. And it's just not true. Our problems kept mounting and mounting, and we kept saying, oh, we'll be able to figure them out eventually because we love each other. And then as we got closer to the wedding, they got bigger and bigger, and they were things that we couldn't compromise on without compromising our happiness. So I ended the relationship. He was very devastated. I was very devastated, but it's been years now and we have been able to become really, really good friends. He got remarried. He had a beautiful child and we've been able to have this friendship carry on. And I know it will carry on for the rest of our lives, which is probably what we should have always been, which was truly, truly great friends. So let's normalize ending relationships with people who just aren't right for us, no matter how wonderful they are.
Let's talk about some signs that helped me realize that I did not want to marry my ex-fiance. In no specific order, that feeling. When he asked me, I actually saw a ring in his back pocket while we were walking onto the beach, and initial reaction was, let's turn around. When he was on a knee, said, are you sure? Didn't want to look at wedding dresses. I love fashion, I love clothes, and I had absolutely no interest in looking at a wedding dress. The thought of planning a wedding gave me so much anxiety. Next, I started convincing myself that I did not want kids anymore. I studied early childhood education in college. I freaking love babies. I started to literally believe maybe I don't want kids anymore. I started to envision a life outside of the life that I was living. I thought about what kind of job I wanted to have, where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do with my life, what kind of routine I wanted to have, and none of it aligned with the life that I was currently living. I've always wanted to do that. I felt so much disconnect from myself. Walking away from an engagement is hard. Even if you don't want to be with the person anymore, you no longer love that person, you know you'll be happier once you leave, it's still hard. And that's okay. I remember the day that I left, I had a moment where my gut feeling, whatever it had been doing, it finally relaxed. I just felt this relief. I kept telling myself that it's so much better to be embarrassed or scared to do something than to live your life settling for something when you know you deserve more. I was so scared that my family was gonna be so disappointed in me. Respectfully, nobody gives a fuck if you walk away from your engagement. People who love you are gonna love you either way. People who support you and are there for you and genuinely care about your happiness and your well-being, they will support you through this. It's gonna be okay, and it does get better. Your life is about to start. You just have to close the chapter. I love you so much. You can do this. You got this.
So yesterday I posted a video talking about how I was engaged, but I broke it off and moved across the country where I didn't know a soul. And a lot of you guys wanted a story time about it, so let's do it. So I got engaged September of 2019 to a guy that I was dating for about 2 years at the time. And he's a really awesome guy, but for some reason before we got engaged, I just was not feeling good about it. I started having doubts about 3 months before we got engaged. We had gone on a trip together, and I saw some aspects of his personality come out that I just didn't appreciate, like how he acted under stress and stuff like that. And so like around that time I started to have these feelings of doubt, and then I knew that the proposal was coming. Like I knew that it was coming up, and so I started to feel, instead of excitement, I started to feel really stressed and anxious about it. I was so stressed that literally the week before I made a pros and cons list, which looking back now, hindsight 2020, I feel like if I felt the need to make that list, I like probably should have just known that it wasn't right. But my issue was that like on paper, he was everything that I wanted in a partner. He was all these amazing things. And I was like, what is wrong with me to where I don't want to marry this person? Like there's literally no reason why I should be feeling this way. And so I thought, like I kind of talked it up in my mind to be jitters or being just nervous, or this could be a whole nother story time, but I had dated someone for 4 years before this person that I was engaged to, who had passed away actually. And like I was very, very, very much in love with him. And so like there was a part of me that was like, maybe I just feel guilty for moving on and for falling in love again and for like finding this new chapter in my life. And so I kind of just wrote it off as that. And so we got engaged. When we got engaged, I was like obviously excited, but I still felt like I was having to talk myself into it. Like I was having to reassure myself that this was the right thing to do and that this was the right decision. And I was very honest with my then fiance about how I was feeling, and I told him about my reservations. And so he suggested that I started to go to grief counseling, which was good. But like I went to grief counseling to like talk through my guilt from moving on from my previous relationship where the man had passed away. But my grief counselor, when I went to go see her, she was actually like, you know, you are dealing with a lot of grief and trauma, and I do think that's part of it, but I also think that you just like maybe don't want to marry this person. And I was like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. She definitely knew what she was talking about. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a part 2. Okay, this is part 2 of my story, how I broke off an engagement and moved across the country. So I went to that counselor, and she basically told me that I just didn't want to marry this man, and I was like, no, you're wrong. So I literally stopped going to her. I owe her an apology. I need to like call her and tell her that she was right. But then we started planning the wedding, but like every time that we would go visit a venue or something like that, I would feel so apprehensive and nervous, and I felt like I was looking for things that were wrong with each venue just so that we wouldn't book it, because like I couldn't commit to booking a date. And like I put it off for months. So we got engaged in September, then finally in January we found a venue that was like perfect. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, Maddie, just do it. What's wrong? Like, why are you being so apprehensive? And so we booked the venue for October, but then COVID hit. And so when COVID hit and everything got shut down, I found myself actually feeling like relieved, because I was like, maybe the wedding will get canceled. Like, we'll put a pause on planning and all of this stuff, which like, again, hindsight looking back, like I should have known. But like breaking off an engagement is such a huge decision. It's not like you're just breaking up, you know, where you're just dating, you could break up, get back together. Breaking off an engagement is like a final thing. Like you're not, I feel like it's rare that you would break off an engagement and then get back together. And so I like wanted to be so sure. And again, the guy was so amazing that I just like didn't know why I was feeling this way. And so I didn't want to just call it off, because I loved him and I wanted to be with him. I did not want to be with him. And so COVID caused us to postpone the wedding yet again. And so that was in October, and then we were thinking like maybe in spring we could get married. And so at this point we had been engaged for a year, and like COVID didn't really have an end in sight. And so it was like, okay, do we want to elope or do we want to have a wedding? And COVID really just was like a crutch for me, because I didn't have to make the decision that deep down I knew I had to make, because every single day I found myself thinking like, is this right? Is this what I want? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Am I as in love with this man as I know I can be? Because like I said in the last video, I was so in love with the man that I dated before him that like I know how much I can love someone, and I just felt like I loved the guy I was engaged to, but I didn't love him as much as I know I can, and as much as I want to love my husband that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, if that makes sense. And then so we made a goal and we said, okay, after the holidays, like we're gonna plan, we're gonna do it, it's gonna happen. And so after the holidays, okay, I'm gonna have to do one more part. This is part 3 of how I broke off my engagement and moved across the country. The other 2 parts are on my page. But so after the holidays, I just like, at that point, I was like, it has been a year and a half of me questioning every single day if this is the right decision. And like breaking up sounds like the most awful thing in the world, but why am I questioning this every day? Like I should not be questioning. And I was looking to people on Instagram, like influencers and all those people who had similar stories. And I remember I reached out to Maddie Nelson because she has a very similar situation. And she was like, you know what? If you're reaching out and questioning it enough to reach out to me and ask, I think you already know the answer deep down. And that really hit me because I was like, shoot, like I've been asking that question for a year and a half, like that means something. And so finally one day he just kind of like came in the room, and because he wanted to elope, he wanted to do all this stuff, and he was like, Maddie, what's going on? And then I basically told him like, I don't want to get married. And it was very hard, and I shattered his heart for sure. And it shattered my own heart. Like it was awful. It was so awful. All my family was shocked. They loved him, like loved him. And it was just terrible. But after, I truly felt so much peace about it. Like it was like a weight just lifted off my shoulders, because I had been making myself sick over it for so long, over making that decision and just having the courage and strength to just do it, like to do what I knew deep down was right. It made me feel so at peace. And I'm obviously a terrible decision maker, and so making a decision and feeling 100% right about it said something. And so after that, it's a long story, but things got very sour afterwards. And what happened after the breakup just solidified it even more. I was like, you know what? All the things I was apprehensive about like have come to fruition, and I know that I'm not supposed to be with this person. I do not want to be with someone who talks to me that way, who treats me that way. And it ended up just being the best thing ever. And so literally like 2 months later, I decided to move across the country for a fresh start. So I moved from California to Nashville. I didn't know a soul. I just picked up and left. And it has been the most amazing year of just like living my own life, living for me, not having to worry about anyone else, like doing what I want while I can, while I have this time where it's just me. And it has been amazing. So that is my story time. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know.
I called the wedding off 7 days before it was supposed to happen. And while that is a long loaded story for another time, there's something about that I wanted to share has been impacting me a lot lately. Right after I called the wedding off, I was searching and reaching so desperately for some semblance or sign that everything was going to be okay. And for me in that moment, okay meant I ended up with somebody else, somebody better, and my life looked like the fairy tale that it was supposed to look like just 8 days before that. And now suddenly I'm 7 days before the wedding and my whole life is shattering around me. I found out he was cheating on me with somebody I considered a friend. So that's the reasoning behind it. And it was one of the easiest decisions I've ever made, because there was no part of me that wanted to tell my future children, don't worry if you're getting cheated on, daddy cheated on me, you know, we're all good. And everyone's story is different and people recover from infidelity. But for me, 7 days before I said vows to somebody and committed my life to them, I definitely didn't feel comfortable moving forward with that. And so after that, I found myself searching for signs and asking people constantly if they knew someone that had experienced something similar, like when was everything okay for them again, or how do, you know, what was their stories ending, or are they married now? And I remember one, a former boss in particular had said to me, yeah, I have a friend, the same thing happened within, you know, in a year, she met the love of her life and she was married and everything was wonderful. And I hung on to that hope. And what's crazy is it's now been 7 years since I called my wedding off. And if you had told me in those moments after, oh, hey girl, in 7 years, you're still not gonna be married, you're not gonna have found this person that you needed to complete you, I think it might have ruined me. Like, it would have done some significant damage because I was looking and grasping so desperately at needing this answer. But now 7 years later, I've found a love for myself that I've never had before. I found the person I was looking for, and that person was me. And that has had to involve a lot of additional beginnings and endings, a lot of additional heartbreak, a lot of things that if somebody fast forwarded in a crystal ball and said, oh, hey, yeah, guess what, girl, you're 7 years out and still don't have that thing that you think you need to be happy, I wouldn't have wanted to hear that. But I'm here to tell you now that no matter where you find yourself, your path is already set. You already have everything you want within your higher being. Your highest self already has it all. And worrying about finding security only holds you in the past. My life did not turn out the way that I thought or I even hoped it would when I called my wedding off 7 days before it was supposed to happen. But in almost every single way, it's been better. So choose to believe that. The best is still yet to come, and our very best days have not happened yet. And we could not write them up any better than the universe already has planned, even if we tried.
When I was 25, I got engaged to a guy that I thought was the love of my life, and when I was 27, I broke off that engagement. Now, I have nothing to say about that guy. He's absolutely amazing, and I wish him nothing but the best things in life. We just weren't the right match. But somebody recently asked me for my advice regarding somebody going through a similar situation, and here's what I would have to say. One, I think that sometimes you feel things in life, and what begin as whispers from your gut turn into screams, okay? And you can ignore those whispers, but by the time they turn into screams, you cannot ignore them. And when they are screaming, it erodes your mental health, okay? And you can try to avoid it, you can try to fight it, you can try to convince yourself out of it, but when what's coming from your gut are screams, it's gonna eat you alive unless you do something about it, okay? I tried to convince myself out of everything, didn't work. My gut did not shut up, okay? So at some point, you just have to be honest with yourself and do the hard thing. 2, after I did the hard thing, and it took a long time for me to get the guts to do it because I was so afraid and I loved this person so much. After I got the guts to do it, I have not regretted it a single time since, okay? And I was so afraid that I would. But when you do something that's authentic and true, and this might not be the experience for everybody, but when you take an action that you know, even if it's scary, is so authentic and true and rooted in who you are and what's best for you and what you're meant for, I really just don't think you regret it. I think you have that initial sadness, and it's hard and it's scary, and you feel like you're jumping off a cliff and you don't know what's going to catch you. But it's so true and authentic that you just know, that I just knew in my core, this is what I have to do, and I have not regretted it a moment since, even though right now I'm about to turn 30 and I'm still single and life doesn't necessarily look the way I thought it would, or from the external sense, perhaps somebody might look at me and think, oh my gosh, she went backwards. My life is so much more authentic and true now. I would never take it back because I'm so much happier, and the life I'm living is way more aligned, and I know, even though I haven't found that person yet, I know that it's leading me to a much better love and a much better love story, and one that's a better fit for me. 3, I think it's helpful, and not everyone's gonna feel this way, I think it's helpful to actually start dating other people. Your mileage may vary, but for me, I think it's nice to see, okay, there are other guys out there that are what I'm looking for. There are other guys that can make me feel a certain way, or that I can be attracted to, or that have the same qualities that I felt like maybe were irreplaceable with this person. I think it is a good vehicle to hope again. Now, I think it's also slippery slope because I do think, you know, certain things can turn into rebounds, or you might not be healed and you might just get the dopamine rush from all of it. So, like I said, your mileage may vary, but I do think it's good to be out in the world and be like, oh, there are cute guys. There are guys that are into me. There are guys that have these qualities that, like, I'm not just like SOL at finding another great guy again. And 4, I never really struggled with the thought of what other people were gonna think. I just don't really care. I'm like, dude, this is my life. I'm the one that has to wake up living it every day. I don't really care what other people are saying about it. Like, I think it's kind of ballsy of me to be able to live my truth and to do the hard thing when so many people, like, aren't ballsy enough to do it, even though they know they're doing the wrong thing. But I think what's important is that nobody's thinking about you as much as you think they are. Nobody really cares. Like, all these people that you're worrying about what they're gonna think, you could die tomorrow, and for 99% of them, in 6 months, they may never even think of you again. And I know that's kind of a sad and sobering thought, but at the same time, it's so freeing. What does what you're doing matter to anybody other than the people that love you the most? And they should theoretically just want the best for you. But just don't worry about what other people are thinking. Like, they don't really care. It's just gossip. Who cares? If you're relevant enough to gossip about, take that win and keep it moving. They don't really care what you're doing. And I also just want to say, it's a scary thing to do something like break off an engagement, but you would so much rather admit that you walked through the wrong door than spend your entire life standing in the wrong room. Like, that's your entire life, and you deserve a love story that is so beautiful and true and authentic, and to be lit up by this person, okay? For it to be the person that you've dreamed about your whole life. So don't settle, even if it's hard, even if it's scary, and only you know what's right for you. And I think you really have to get in tune with yourself and listen, but it will be okay. It is really hard. It's so hard. I can't underscore that enough, but you will be okay. And you will come out so much better for it, and it makes me excited of the next chapter that you will have in your life, and how much freer and better and lighter you will feel. Like the next iteration of yourself, let that excite you.
All right, guys, so we are looking at this video. You're seeing so many women have broken off the engagement, and there are so many reasons why people break off the engagement. Well, some people say that it's best to break up an engagement as compared to breaking off a marriage. During an engagement, you are not yet married, so basically under the law of the country, you can literally break off the engagement and go your separate ways without the issue of trying to divide your properties or wasting time, that kind of thing. It's easier to break off an engagement as compared to breaking off a marriage, because during a marriage, chances are, yes, families have already united, you've become friends, you have been maybe married for a couple of years down the line, you have children, you have properties together, you've made investment together. Literally, there's that love, memories you've shared. So when you break up a marriage, there's a lot going on, there's a lot to lose, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of heartache. I'm not saying when you break up an engagement there's not a lot of pain, there's not a lot of heartache. It's there, but at the end of the day, it's best to cut off the ties earlier as compared to waiting after the marriage. Why am I saying that? Because if you realize that this is not the man you want to be with, you've realized there's some issues here I know I cannot overcome, and it's best for us to cut our ties right now as compared after marriage, it's best to do so. And that's the reason why so many women are doing that when they realize there's an issue which I know for a fact I cannot overlook. Example, infidelity. Some women cannot overlook of that. Majority of women cannot overlook of that. It's the same way men cannot overlook of that, because when a union, when two people become one, they usually say they want to spend time together, they want to spend their life together, and they love each other. And yes, they are in a monogamous marriage, not open marriage, monogamous marriage, meaning they're going to be faithful to each other for the rest of their life. So if one of them break that promise, usually trust is broken, and usually heartache will happen. And usually when there's no trust, there's that heartache, and of course there's that feeling of, you know what, I can no longer be with you. Then chances are one person or both of them will agree to divorce. And yes, that's divorce or break up. And most of the engagement people break up, majority, as a result of infidelity. And then the other thing that sometimes people break up the engagement, for example, you're not open up to your partner, you're not transparent enough, especially maybe you have accumulated huge amount of debt. Instead of telling your partner, you do not tell your partner properly. So by the time you engage, when she realized, oh my God, the financial situation is not correct, you did not tell me the truth, you lied to me, chances are this partner of yours is going to break off the engagement, because they feel like, no, I cannot handle this situation because you are not transparent enough in telling me all the necessary information that literally can make or break a relationship. Because at the end of the day, money is important when it comes to a relationship. Money is crucial. It can break or make a relationship. That is the reality, because everything in life right now, it all based on money. When you want to take your kids to school, there has to be money. To feed your kids, there has to be money. To take your kids to the hospital, there has to be money. Just to live a conducive, normal home, buy a house, investment, it involves money. So money makes life easier. That is the reality. As much as we love each other, but money is important. And if somebody is not transparent along that area, usually chances are that relationship is going to break up apart. The other thing that makes people break off the relationship is whereby maybe religion differences, your morally differences, you're not at par. You feel like I cannot enter a relationship where we are not on the same page morally, religiously. So some people decide just to end up the engagement before they reach into the marriage. There are those situations there's a lot of situations that really happen. Violence also is also one of the major reasons why people break up, because nobody wants to enter a relationship or a marriage where somebody is being beaten left, right, and center. That's the reason why you hear so many people say, by the way, this man, when I was dating him, he wasn't like this. But after marriage, he turned around, he changed, he became like a chameleon. He started beating me left, right, and center. So right now, because I'm already married, now I want to break off. I want to divorce this man because I cannot handle the abuse that I'm experiencing. So the violence is another, in fact, one of the major reasons why people break up the engagement. So let me know what you think about what are the other reasons that people break up the engagement. Why do people do that? And then the other people situation where the woman feels like, you know what, I'm not ready to become a mother, I'm not ready to become a wife, I just cannot handle it. I just want to break up this relationship because I'm not ready to become a wife, I'm not ready to become a mother. So yeah, that's another reason. There's that one where people feel like, you know what, I deserve better. You are not at par with me. That's another reason people break off the engagement. So there's so many things that people decide why they are not ready to become the way they decide to end the engagement and not get married. And there's so many situations. And the reality is you cannot force somebody to marry you. That is the reality. When people decide to marry, it's usually you love each other, you want to be together and all this stuff. Of course, different communities, different religious, different ways of getting married. But the one which everybody knows is usually most people, when they decide to get married, they are happily in love and they want to make two families become one through marriage. So let me know what your thoughts are. Why do people decide to end the engagement? Do you have questions? Comment section is open. Please guys subscribe to my channel.